The biggest takeaway from this year's cattle industry summer meeting was the importance of our industry working together to accomplish our common goals of preserving our livelihood and growing demand for beef. In Denver, more than 700 cattlemen and women gathered to work on important industry issues, get updates on what's happening in the nation's capital and in the research field, and hear from the leadership of the National Cattlemen's Beef Association. And joining me in the studio today is the CEO of the NCBA organization, Forrest Roberts. Forrest, thanks for coming to the show.
Thanks, Kevin. Thanks for having me.
You know, I know the summer conference was an action-packed several days, but if you would boil down a couple of the key takeaways that you took away from the conference, what would they be? Well,
Kevin, as you said, it was a very long week, but I think the week ended on a very successful tone. And the one big takeaway that I took from this year's summer conference was this industry needs a whole lot more unity than what it currently exists within the U.S. beef industry. And naturally, in a summer conference like this, you do a lot of things. You address organizational issues, you address industry issues, and you look at planning. And we did all three of those things. And one of the things that we addressed right up front was from an organizational issue. We talked about a recent compliance review that we've been going through as it relates to our checkoff area of work that we do on behalf of the National Beef Checkoff Program. And the one thing I would like everyone to know is that folks, we take that compliance review very seriously. I have personal and professional accountability to make sure that we understand where there's any mistakes or errors and that we work to get those fixed. We work to make sure we get that right, and we're right in the midst of making sure that we take those next steps literally as we speak to make sure that we learn from that experience and that we take the learnings and apply those with any updated policies and procedures, because we want to make sure we're investing that dollar that producer has committed to us in the most prudent way and responsible way. Other organizational issues that we addressed was that of the Federation of State Beef Councils, and how they fit within the structure of NCBA, and how do we best coordinate that state national plan of work, again, all about trying to ensure the most efficient use of that dollar that producer has afforded us with. Naturally, when you come into a summer conference like this, you have an opportunity to address some real critical industry issues. One of those was we looked at the beef supply situation and what that may look like over the next 10 years, over the next decade. We also looked at the environmental footprint of the U.S. beef industry and what work we need to do to better communicate what that is and what it's not. And then I think last but not least, we had an opportunity to really understand as staff where we gain direction. This summer conference is all about the planning process. First, from the checkoff area of work through the joint planning process, all of those committees gave our team very clear direction on what the next steps are, because as you well know, our fiscal year 2011 is right around the corner. And from a policy angle, that's where we gain real critical direction on how we best shape the legislative issues that our country and our industry is currently facing. But you know, the one thing, Kevin, about that whole summer meeting is that producers came away with the conference. They came away with a clear understanding that our team is very focused on that expectation they gave us. Work hard, work together, work smart, and go get it done for this industry.
Well, I want to ask you about that. You know, as I talk to producers, some see tremendous opportunity, and frankly, others see some uncertainty in the future. And I would just ask you, what do you see as the biggest opportunities for our industry going forward?
That's a good question, and you know, there's analogies that people use, and I tend to look at this analogy of a glass of water. You've heard it before. Some people say, I'm going to look at that glass of water as half full or half empty. And when we look at the global beef market, let's start there. I tend to look at this glass as one that's half full, and here's why. If you take reality, Kevin, of where we are today, we've got the smallest beef cow herd in this country that we've had going back all the way to 1963 with around 31 million head. But when you look at the next 30 years, what's going to happen on this planet is this. We are expecting, and you've seen all the data as well, we're expecting global population growth to go from around 6 billion people to around 9 billion people. The data would suggest that it's going to require about 70% more of an increase in production of food in order to just feed a growing population, and that income of this growing global population is going to increase, or it's going to multiply 2.9 times where it is today. So that growth altogether, I feel, gives us that setup. And that picture is that glass is truly half full, not half empty.
But here's my question. You know, okay. I agree with you there. The only question is there's a lot of other countries that aren't sitting idly by waiting for us to do that. And so how are we going to capitalize on that opportunity before some of our competitors do?
That's a very good question as well, and I think if you think about the global marketplace, you bet there are several countries that are poised to be very competitive in the global market. The U.S. is one of those. We have an infrastructure in this country that is absolutely second to none. So I tend to look at a little bit of an analogy of break this thing down. If we look at the next decade, just between now and 2020, how do we eat that elephant, as the old saying goes, one bite at a time? And the best way I can describe that is it's focusing on the fives, okay? Five meaning first five. How do we look at per capita beef supply, net beef supply, going from where we were about a decade ago of 65 pounds to where we are today, we're at 60. So if we can go from 60 back to where we were a decade ago, that 5-pound increase in per capita net beef supply, which is an indicator of demand here in this country, that is a big, big first step. Then secondly, we also know that there is huge opportunity with a lot of the key export markets around the country, around the globe. And these other countries are very well poised to take advantage of that growth as well. So if we take the 10% that we export today and grow that to 15%, that 5-point growth we think will give us another 5. And that is a 5 million head increase in the current beef cow herd that we have to work with in this country today. So it's really kind of focusing on the fives. Again, a 5-pound increase in that per capita growth, a 5% increase on the export side will yield us an opportunity to have a cow herd that grows by 5 million head.
That's great. And what's NCBA's role in that?
Well, NCBA's role is to make sure that we're linking back to an industry plan. So we're in the process of working to update our beef industry plan and working with members of our state beef councils, our partners like U.S. Meat Export Federation, and also our close partner with the Cattlemen's Beef Board. And we're working on making sure that the next steps are to update that beef industry long-range plan. Because if we do, and we bring out a plan that not only looks at the demand side, but also gives us an opportunity to address some of these real critical legislative issues that are facing our industry today. Everything from competitive markets to the role of and the use of antibiotics, all the way to an issue like estate tax. If we address those right in the next 1 to 3 years, what we feel we have an opportunity to do is to make a significant impact toward 2020 just in the next 5 years. And NCBA is a team that we feel is, you've heard me say this before, they're playing to win. And that's defined as doing everything you can with everything you have and learning from it. And if they do that right, they will focus on uniting this industry where it needs to be and take advantage of that growth opportunity that's there ahead of us. That's
exciting. Thanks so much for joining us.
Thank you, Kevin. Thanks for having me.
Stay up to date on what's happening at NCBA and become a member today. Call us at 1-866-USA-BEEF or visit us at beefusa.org.